everyone, and thank you for being with Automotive Forum Live. Today, we are recording this interview from Las Vegas, quite an exceptional place due to our presence as Quintegia in an ADA 2022. I have the pleasure to be here with Mr. Lycke, Bernard Lycke, the General Director of CECRA. CECRA is the notorious association representing 21 associations in Europe in the car manufacturing world. And thank you very much, first of all, for being here and taking the time out of the international meeting for spending a few words with us at the Automotive Forum Live audience.
With pleasure.
Thanks a lot. So, Mr. Lycke, we heard from you, from your presentation in the international meeting, that there are two main elements that are disrupting or changing really the environment in the industry we are working in. So, first of all, we are talking about the electrification of the industry, and secondly, about the new model, the new distribution model is approaching, and not only actually we heard, of course, in Europe, which is very well known from the people that are looking at Automotive Forum Live and talking also in the industry, but even in US, they are start talking quite intensely about that. Can you spend with us a few words about, these two main trends that are really reshuffling, what we are looking at experiencing?
Yeah. First of all, I think there is a big difference between Europe and the rest of the world. The European Commission is really very encouraging green cars, and we know that they had in mind the actual commission with Commissioner Timmermans, the Vice President, with a portfolio on Green Deal. They had in mind to have zero emission vehicles by 2050. Now, 1 year ago, they have made an announcement that they wanted this accelerated, and you have heard about Fit for 55, which means 55% reduction of the emissions by 2035. And this makes an enormous acceleration of the direction of to zero emission vehicle. When we speak about zero emission vehicle, of course, at the moment it's electric vehicles. In the future, we could have hydrogen vehicles. I think it's still interesting to not to forget them, but at the moment we must say that we are not ready yet with hydrogen vehicles. And this is, I think, particular to Europe, this acceleration towards electric vehicles. And I share the views expressed by several members who spoke today, that maybe electric vehicles are not the best solution yet. We speak always about the same problems about electric vehicles, the range, the residual value of the battery. You have still the problem with the charging points, which are not enough in Europe. There are some countries which are doing better than others, but in general, it's not enough at all. So there are still a lot of uncertainties with electric vehicles, but in general, the Commission, I think, will not change its mind, and it's decided. So we will have to do it whether we like it or not. The second transition you spoke was about the future distribution models. I think there is a difference between US and Europe in that context. If I hear what NADA was saying during this interesting international roundtable, they said basically that there is a trend about direct sales, but they say also that the price will be fixed. And so they will go in direction of more probably direct sales with fixed price. But the difference with Europe is that we will have probably agent contracts really implemented. And we have already several brands which made announcements. Of course, Stellantis Group with a huge portfolio of brands is one example. Another example is Cupra with the model Born. And here we are quite concerned at CECRA's level about the trend which could be followed by some manufacturers. I do not want to generalize and to make any generalization. We know that it's up to the manufacturer to make a decision about the distribution model. They can choose for agent contracts if they want so, but then they have to apply all the obligations which follow this model. And when we see this example of Cupra, we are not happy at all, because basically Cupra wants more grip on the network, and for this reason they choose the agent model, but they don't assume all the obligations which follow this agent model, and they don't want to pay all the investments back to the agent. With the genuine agent contract, normally you do not have as an agent to make significant investment for the brand. The brand has to do these investments. And here, what we have heard from lawyers also is that some of these investments are still to be done by the so-called agent, and the final price is not completely fixed. And by doing this, the brand says, no, I don't impose the final price to the agent, and so I do not have to pay all the investments. And we think that it's a very dangerous path for the brand which would do this. And the Commission, the European Commission, is well informed and said that they would follow this very carefully.
We know that, this topic, together with the introduction of the EV, is a very, I would say, slippery floor, and very divisive topic. We are really experiencing also in some of our release of study and, discussion roundtable, also the same, bold approach from the different parties that are talking about that. I want to also underline that as part of this institutional window that Quintegia is providing in the Automotive Forum Live, and thank you, Bernard, again, for taking this
no problem.
opportunity. We are trying to bring the voices of the people that are impacting, the regulation, that are, discussing with the different associations, remaining independent from the point of view, and just trying to bring knowledge and sharing, the learnings in order to just bring a better point of view for everybody in the industry, actually, a more, aware point of view on the things that are happening into the marketplace. And this international roundtable, once again, was very interesting because we really went through Germany, position in the US. Of course, we heard about France, and your perspective is very important to just connect the dots and actually having the full picture. My feeling is also there is still a lot to do, to really understand how the car manufacturer are going to approach that, what they want, how they want to reach that. But I realize that one of your comment was even more, laser focused on that than the others that were all very interesting, which is, we should be able to understand that car manufacturers should not apply different approach depending on the specific countries and the specific opportunities depending on the law and the limitation.
Yes, and there I think you refer to what I said about Stellantis Group. Stellantis has, as I said, a huge portfolio of brands, and according to the information that we have, of course, it has to be confirmed in the coming weeks and months. It seems that Stellantis would like to choose for agent contract at least in Benelux and Austria. And these four countries have a legislation protecting dealers, not at the same level. Austria and Luxembourg a good protection, Belgium a small protection, and basically the Netherlands has a franchising legislation since 2 years. In these four countries, at least there exists a kind of protection at national level about dealers. And it seems, so I'm very cautious, it seems that Stellantis would opt for agent contracts in these four countries. And for the other countries like Germany or France, very big countries, they would choose for a mix between distribution model and agent model. And of course, this is worrying because all dealers in Europe will not benefit from the same protection, and there will be a fragmentation. There is already a fragmentation of the market because not all the countries in Europe have the same laws applicable to dealers. So that's already one point. But it could be even emphasized if some brands would follow the legislation and choosing their model in function of the legislation. That's one point. And again, we must follow this very carefully. On the opposite, we have also some brands which have already made clear announcements that they would like to follow the distribution model as it is now and as it exists since more than 100 years. Renault or Toyota are two examples. They are quite happy with the actual distribution model, and they say it's the model that we want to prolong after the new B year will be known. And this is, of course, very important for us. It shows also that this model is a good model. Otherwise, it would not have lasted so long. It's of course true that several manufacturers want to go more in direct contact with the customers. This is true, at least in Europe. We see it very, very clearly. The reasons are various, and we have reminded them during this international debate. The 30% threshold is one point. The fact that customer data is really important. It belongs to the dealers at the moment, and manufacturers with an agent model can take this customer data quite easily, what would not be so easy in a distribution model. So there are at least several brands which made clear announcement that they would go for agent contract. Again, we do not have any problem with this, because it could even be very interesting for small dealers, we think, to go in this direction of agent contracts. The problem is what you said before, when some brands would like to make a mix between distribution agreements and agent contracts, because there, when you have one model at legal level, you have to follow it completely. And again, in the new block exemption regulation, the general BR applicable to sales, we don't have any specific regulation applicable to sales since 2013. So since 9 years, we have the general BR. And there it's very clear, at least if the Commission decides to follow the text as it is now, there are several pages about that. The specific mixed is normally to be excluded. And at least the investment made by dealers, when they were dealers, if the manufacturers switch to the agent model, the investments made by our members when they were dealers have to be compensated.
I got it, Bernard. One of the major messages that I also heard, not only in this session, in this recent session, but also in the one that opened actually the so-called super session today, the pre-opening actually of the NDA, was the customer centricity actually, which is looks like is really the trigger point for the electrification, the way of selling the electrification, the change and transformation of the model. So it looks like the customer is used to an Amazon experience, and we need to find a way to get to that way. And the big debate is, are the dealers ready to just do that, or they're, giving the chance to the OEM to jump, into the final part of the chain? What's your point of view on that?
My point of view is that, we speak about omni-channel experience of the consumer. The consumer wants to check online, and he knows already very well what he wants, but then he needs to have an interaction with the dealer. We still think that it's important to have this interaction with the dealer in a dealership, and to make the test drive, and to have explanation, and to feel the car, and to touch it, and to etc., etc. So we think still that this is a very important experience. Whether the dealer is ready or not, I think it's for all the entire value chain the same. There are dealers who are ready, and probably the dealers who could do better. And for me, we have a balance to have. And Stellantis, by the way, has made an announcement that the standards, so the square meters, etc., would be less important in the future, because the dealers would have to represent a larger portfolio of brands. Of course, Stellantis has several brands, so they would be obliged to represent majority of all the brands, but less cars, less square meters, etc. So our request would be, if we think about new investments to be able to follow this omni-channel experience of the customer, it means that our dealers would have to invest more in, for example, a good website, the follow-up of the management of the leads more rapidly than now. All this is very, very important for the customer. And this we fully understand. So more investment on that. But it means also that you could say to the dealer as a manufacturer, you have to invest less in the physical store. You don't need necessarily such a huge cathedral as it is now, because you could have less square meters, but a better investment online.
We know, I mean, it could be a plus or minus depending on the status of the, of the investment,
Of course.
and of course the type of contract and the legislation. No, everything very clear. I will spend ages actually talking with you. Thankful, really for. I mean, I will cover, a lot of the topics that we have the chance to listen already, and but I mean, we will probably distill and share with the community of Dealer Day also in the months to come. I need to thank you everyone from Las Vegas, and keep watching Automotive for Live, and have a good evening and good job.
Bye-bye.